Good day guys, and welcome to another YouTube video of the one and only The All-Time Gamer. To those of you who are new on my channel, very welcome. In today's video I'll be showing you guys how to build a PC on a PC game that we call PC Building Simulator. Right guys, so we are going to head over to how to build a PC. If you don't have PC Building Simulator guys, this is a very fantastic game, especially when you are new in PC gaming and you want to learn more on how to build a PC. Or it doesn't even have to be exactly a gaming PC, but if you want to learn more about the components and what it comes with, guys, I would recommend this game. Right guys, so we're going to head over to how to build a PC and I will guide you through all of the steps. Alright guys, so with any PC, it doesn't matter if it's a gaming or if it's just an office PC, it doesn't matter. So with any PC, we are first going to remove the panels, obviously, and it is necessary to remove both the panels. So the panels is the right hand side and the left hand side panels. As you guys can see, we are going to open the first panel, then on the right we are going to open the second panel. And now guys, so as you can see, the first thing we are going to install in any PC is your power supply. Why your power supply? Alright, that's a great question guys. So you will see that in most of the cases, many PCs some of the PCs has a different slot for the power supply. As you guys can see, this PC's power supply comes here at the bottom. Some of them has a space here on the top where you can install the power supply on the top, but why exactly does it have to be the power supply first? Right guys, so let's say for example, so your motherboard is going to be fitted in here where I'm moving my cursor. So your motherboard will be installed here. So let's say for example you put your motherboard first. Right, so your motherboard is fitted. Now you are going to install your power supply, but now you've got a bit of a problem. Your power supply is a very big component, alright guys, so which means that you are going to need space to work. So now you're going to have to struggle to fit the power supply in between the motherboard, and it's not going to go off very well. And the second thing, but it's also not least important, also one of the most important things, the cables must come through to the motherboard through the correct spaces. Right guys, so let's say you put in your motherboard first and then you put your power supply. Now your cables is all over everything, and that's just not going to work guys. So then you're going to have to lift up your cables and shift your cables, and with that you are going to damage your cables. So always guys, if I can advise you, you can take a pen and paper and write the steps. So always your power supply first. Alright, so guys, in this case you will see your power supply comes here at the bottom. So you will see we've got like a little back plate here where we can remove the holder for the power supply. Let's quickly remove it. We're going to remove screws. Right guys, so now this is what your power supply looks like. Right guys, as you can see, it has a fan to cool it, and then there's all your pins where you are going to plug in to give power to your graphics card, your hard drive, and so forth. And then guys, this is your this is where your main power plug plugs in to give power to your power supply. Alright guys, let's fit it in. As you guys can see now what I meant, the power supply takes quite a lot of space. So as you can imagine, if this power supply goes here at the top, So that's why I said always power supply first. Alright guys, then we can screw in back our screws from the back plate. Right guys, but now as you can see there's extra screws. Right, and why is that? So that's obviously your screw parts for the power supply. So you will see that when you have a power supply there's like extra holes that fits in with a gaming chassis that you're just going to screw your power supply on. Right guys, now next up, second of all is your motherboard. Now you can install and connect your motherboard. Right guys, for those of you who don't know, this is your power board. Oh, sorry guys, not your power board, your motherboard. Sorry, I'm still at the power supply. Right guys, so as you can see, your motherboard has like a lot, a lot of components on itself. So let's start off with the most important part. So the most important thing is your CPU socket. This is where your CPU is going to go in. Alright guys, so most of you might know it as a processor. So this is where your processor comes in. CPU stands for central processing unit. And then second most important thing is your RAM slots. This is where your memory is gonna go in. So where your RAM is going to go in. This is where your power plug from your power supply plugs into the board to give power to the board. That is your hard drive slots or your SSD slots. Alright guys, so you get something that we call a SATA cable. Now that is going to go from the motherboard into your hard drive, and that's basically going to the data is going to basically transfer between your motherboard and your hard drive or SSD. That's just how that is going to work. Right guys, and your front panel headers, what exactly is it? Alright guys, so if you guys are going to look on your chassis, so let's say on your PC box, you will see your power button, your reset button, maybe a HDD LED light that shows that it's like busy with something. So all of that connects to the front panel headers. So that's basically to give power to that. And then right guys, so this is your IO ports, your USB ports, your aux ports and so forth. And that's the most, alright guys, sorry, and then the last important thing, but that's also very important, is your CMOS battery. Yes guys, believe it or not, a motherboard also contains something like a battery. But what is, now most of you guys are going to ask, what exactly is the battery there for if the computer has power? Right guys, so the CMOS battery, believe it or not, it keeps your BIOS update, it keeps like your BIOS settings saved as well as your date and time. So like let's say if you guys ever saw on your right hand side of your computer when you're logged into Windows, doesn't matter which Windows, you will see the date and time. So if you ask yourself the question, let's say your PC switched off or there's like a power interruption and your computer turns off, what exactly keeps that settings saved on your BIOS and what exactly keeps the date and time? Then that is simply the CMOS battery. As simple as that guys. So that's just like a very small backup to keep like the small things saved, like your date and time and as well as your BIOS settings. Right guys, and that's it for the motherboard. Let's install it. Right guys, now you will see that there's like screws that we have to put in before we put in the motherboard. Right, so what exactly is this type of stuff? It's not exactly screws. So this is basically like threads for the screws, right? So this keeps up the motherboard from the back panel of your gaming chassis, and that's simply to protect the motherboard, not to touch the metal from your PC. As simple as that. So you can think like it, you can imagine like it like jacks, alright? It like keeps the motherboard a little bit more up from the back plate. Right guys, so then you screw in those, and then this screws has holes where you are going to screw in your screws when you fit your motherboard. Right guys, so as you can see, now we are going to put the screws from the motherboard, and as you guys can see, like we have more holes on this board. Like in some cases most of the boards has like a screw here and a screw there, and it differs. Right, but as you guys can see, where we screwed in the other screws, this screws is going to fit in those holes and it screws into that threads. Alright guys, now that that's in, I want to quickly show you guys. Let me try and check if I can show you guys. It's a little bit difficult to show you guys, but you will see that there's a gap now between this metal part and the motherboard, and that's exactly what those standoffs do. That's exactly what those standoff screws do. They just keep they just keep a space between this metal and the motherboard. So if you were wondering what we call that screws, we call it standoffs. And this that we screwed in is your normal screws that we screwed in to keep the motherboard there. Right guys, now next up we are going to connect our power to the board. Right guys, so as you can see, we are going to plug this. So this, you will see that the port that's the longest, the socket that's the longest, that's usually the power to your board. Alright guys, and then this is your 8-pin ATX. You will see sometimes, depending on the board, sometimes it's a 4-pin ATX power, and sometimes in this case it's a 8-pin. So like in this case it's a 8-pin, sometimes it's a 4-pin. Right guys, now we are going to connect our front panel, and as you guys can see, as I explained, the front panel plugs connect here at the top. And why exactly is that? That's because it pulses. Like let's say you push this power button, how is your PC supposed to know that it must power on? So when you connected the cables to the front panel, it pulses through a message to tell the motherboard, hey, we have to power on. That's exactly how it works as well. The same with any other of this stuff on top of your gaming chassis or your PC. The reset switch does the same exactly with the USB. Like how is the USB USB port supposed to know when to work? It's only when it's connected to the front panel. Alright guys, now we get to the CPU. So it stands for Central Processing Unit. So exactly like it says, it's the PC's brain. Alright guys, so this is another important component. So let me quickly show you what your CPU looks like, or most of you knows it as a processor. You will see that this is a very small component. It's like, believe it or not, guys, it's only like a small block or a small square. Alright guys, so this is your processor. The Alright guys, so the heat plate is always on the top, and the pins is always at the bottom. So if you guys ever heard of something that we call thermal paste, so we always apply thermal paste on top of the processor before we put on the CPU fan, like before we install the CPU fan on top of it, and that thermal paste just helps to cool off the processor. Alright guys, so the pins fit into the board, and this is your top part of your processor. Right guys, so now to fit your processor, we're gonna open the processor slot. So alright guys, so I'm just quickly going to show you, because this is just like a small demonstration. But when you have something like that, you will see that it has like a pin thingy here. You're going to push down this pin thingy a little bit, because it's like hooked into a small gap in here to keep the slot closed. You're going to push it down a bit and move it to the side, and then you will be able to clip it open, as you guys can see. Alright guys, and then anytime when you are putting in a processor, be very careful, because this pins in this slot is very fragile. If you break one of those pins, I'm so sorry guys to tell you this bad news, but then you cannot use this board unless you get someone to fix it, or unless you buy a new board. Then you can just you might as well just throw away the board, because this is like your main part. Alright guys, it's inserted. Now as you guys can see, now we can close it again. So the same way, you're going to push down the clip, you're going to push down the pin and just hook it back into that small gap. Right guys, now as you can see, like I told you before, this is now we're going to apply thermal paste, and it just helps to cool down the processor. Right guys, so this is your CPU cooler. So this cooler comes on top of your processor. So this cooler plate pushes down onto your processor, and this, you will see that this brackets, but guys, how it works is you're going to like pull out this pin. So you will see that this part, if you twist it to the other side, it like pulls up. You're going to pull in every single one of them up, and then when you place this fan, you are going to like twist it back, and you're going to just push it. So what happens is this pins or this brackets pushes into that motherboard holes, and it like clips to the motherboard, and then it's installed to your board. Right guys, so you will see that the CPU cooler also has power. It comes with a power cable that we are going to connect to the motherboard. Right guys, so let's fit it. Alright guys, so now you can like position it. As you guys can see, there's your full holes where you are going to clip it in. Now as you guys can see, there's the power of your cooler, and you're going to fit it. It's usually 4 pins or 3 pins, also depends, but I think, if I'm not mistaken, most of the time it's 4 pins. You're going to plug it into the board. Alright guys, and now next up is your graphics card. So what exactly does the graphics card do? So it helps with graphics of games, and like let's say you're doing some video editing, it just helps because it has like a graphic processor, so which means it has better performance, like it has better performance to it has very better it has sorry guys, now I had a bit of a problem with my mic. So we've got the graphics card has better performance than your normal onboard graphics. So you've got your onboard graphics, and that obviously helps like to give display and to do the small stuff and basic stuff. But when it comes to the graphics card, it has like a graphics processor that processes graphics, and it just has better performance to play games and to render stuff. Like you will see that, let's say for example you are playing Call of Duty, you will see that all of those details on your guns, for example, when you reload the gun, all of that motion and rendering that's going on must be processed by a graphics card. So that helps to render like most of that graphics, and as well as video editing. When you're doing some video editing, and it just helps with the rendering, to explain it like in a short way. So we are going to install that. So you will see that most of your gaming chassis has like this is just, you will see that it's just like a small plate to cover up this holes. So you are going to remove the second one. Why the second one? Right guys, as simple as that, because if you are going to remove the first one, you will see that this slot is not going to work for your graphics card. You're going to need a long slot. So you will see that the first one is for this slot and it's not going to fit, so we are going to remove the second one. Right guys, and then you screw it in. Right guys, now it comes to RAM, or we call it memory as well. So you'll see here that it says RAM is very fast memory that the CPU uses to hold the programs that are running on the PC. RAMs come in sticks, and many of the same type can be combined to give PC more memory to use. Right guys, so what they mean with you can use one or more, you can, like, let's say for example you've got a 8 gig stick over here. So let's say you want 16 gig, then you can just add another 8 gig of RAM, and it will give you 16. So you'll see this is what your RAM looks like. And when you install it, so you can choose a slot. So you will see that there's 2 slots, even 4. So let's say for example you want 16 gig like I explained, then you're going to put in an 8 gig in this slot, and you're going to put 8 gig in this slot, and it's going to give you 16. So you will see that it has like clips that you're going to open. So this clips just simply pushes back, and now you're going to install your RAM. And then when you push in the RAM, the clips pushes into the gaps of the memory automatically to lock it in. Now guys, we are going to install the hard drive. So you can use the hard drive, or you can use a SSD. So SSD stands for solid state drive. It's a little bit smaller than the hard drive, and it's a lot more faster. But in this case we are going to use a hard drive. So the hard drive, you will see that every PC has a space for the hard drive. So in this case you can see that like this PC chassis can take a lot of hard drives. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 slots that you can put in hard drive. So let's use this one, and we're going to like open the tray, put it in, and then just close the tray again. Now, alright guys, you will see that your hard drive has a small port and it has like a larger port. So the smaller port, where are you going to use to connect to the motherboard? Right guys, so that is what I talked about. We are going to use the SATA cable for that. So the small port is used to transfer data between your motherboard and your hard drive. So it like works together to read data from your hard drive into your PC. And then the large port, as you guys can see, the longer port, is your power board. So this one is going to come from your power supply, because the power supply is going to power up your hard drive. So let's say every time you are going to work on your computer, like you're going to turn it on and off to test some things, then you can just simply unplug the long plug. Why? Because then your power hard drive doesn't have power to work. So let's quickly plug in power from your hard drive, and then second your SATA, and you will see that a motherboard has, like, it doesn't show here, but on your motherboard it will, for example, say SATA 0, SATA 1, SATA 2, and so forth. We always plug it into the lowest SATA. So the reason why I say that is because it has, like, every PC has a booting sequence. So let's say, for example, you have more than one hard drive, let's say 2 hard drives. Now, how is your PC supposed to know from which hard drive it must boot? So let's say, for example, you want to boot from the first hard drive, and you want, sorry guys, so let's say, for example, you want to boot from the first hard drive. You're going to simply plug in your first hard drive into the lowest SATA, because that means it prioritizes this hard drive on top of the other hard drive. So it's going to boot from this one first then. But it doesn't matter, guys. Let's say, for example, you plugged in this one into the SATA 1 and the other one into SATA 2. Then you're just going to simply go to your BIOS and change the boot sequence to boot from SATA 1, but it just makes it easier to plug it into the low SATA in the first place. Right guys, so now obviously we are going to need some things to cool your PC, because this fan is going to blow out hot air as well as the graphics card. So where is this air supposed to escape? So we've got space for a fan here, and then I think it's only, well, some chassis have like space on the top as well, but we are going to use fans to extract the hot air. Right guys, so you will see that here's your fan, and then every fan also has a power plug. It usually contains 3 pins, so we are going to put the fan over here, and then you're going to screw it in from the outside. So your screw is going to go in from the outside in. Right guys, and now you're going to connect it to your motherboard again. So your motherboard will tell you, like, let's say there's some pins here, it's going to have a label underneath that pin that says fan 1 or fan 2. It doesn't depend, it just helps you, like, so you're going to choose the one, then, like, let's say, because the fans have a very short cable, and that's simply just to manage your cables. So you're going to plug it into your nearest pin. So some motherboards has like a fan pins over here, but in this case it has here, so you're going to plug it in there. And now guys, last but not least, you're going to close both your panels. Right guys, and now keep in mind, you've got a graphics card, so which means you can't go and plug in your display cables into the motherboard, because you've got a graphics card. So which means you're going to use the graphics from the graphics card. So we are going to plug in our keyboard and mouse. Alright guys, so you will see that this HDMI is simply going to the monitor. It's going to go into your graphics card, because we are going to use the graphics card for display and rendering and everything. And last but not least, your power. so you're going to plug in your power cable into your PSU. But guys, you're gonna push your button, and that, guys, as simple as that. And that is how you build your PC. If you have any comments, guys, feel free to ask. I just want to apologize for all of the lagging inside the video. I'm still new at giving some lessons and helping out, and sometimes I'm getting a little bit stuck on some places. But guys, please feel free to ask in the comment section. Please drop a like, subscribe for more videos, and I hope you guys have an awesome and amazing day.